What's going on, everybody? Core Conversations for Thursday, and we are going freestyle. Freestyle Thursdays, where we have no guests, just me and you, and we're going to have a conversation about whatever comes up. I have a few talking points, a few things to review from our past clients, and we're just going to hang out. If you want to join me on screen, you're more than welcome to, and we do this every now and then when I have no clients scheduled. Dad goals as always. And we're going to get this going. Phil, what's going on? Hi, Jen. Core Conversations podcast. Drop every Wednesday. Like, subscribe, and share. Neil Prasad, what's going on, man? Neil, what are you doing now, work-wise? I love that you're here. I love that you're joining these conversations, and whether I'm talking Pilates or talking to starting from scratch, you're here. So, love to hear what you do. Yes. We'll get this going. Take a few more minutes for people to get into the room, and then we'll get this rolling. I was hoping to get Misty on. She just passing through, and but she can't. Oh, good. Love Movement Pilates. How you doing, Krista? How are you? Yes. Neil's got a podcast? Love it. Neil, if you want to join me, you're more than welcome to. So, today, here's the deal. I just want to talk about some of our past clients and some of the things that we've had. So, I've had some fantastic people on this week. Michelle Smith on Monday from Pilates Pod. Kelsey McClelland, who I talked about yesterday as one of the first people who introduced me to Pilates, and just the dynamics of that relationship. Megan yesterday was awesome too. So Megan, I want to actually start with that. I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but let's open here. When Megan was on, yes, get your coffee and let's do it. I'm going to talk about this in the meantime, Neil, and then you can just jump on whenever you're ready. If anyone else would like to join me on screen, you're more than welcome to talk about any one of our guests from this past week. Love Movement Pilates. I'd love to hear from you. What do you do? Where you're from? The whole deal. Now, when Megan was on yesterday, we were talking about Black Lives Matter, generally speaking, talking about these incidences with Dante Wright, with George Floyd, with Elijah Fisher. She speaks a lot to like neuro complexities and Pilates teaching. So that one especially broke her heart when there was a police brutality towards that young man who was on the autistic spectrum. Knowing the people that she works with, and knowing their capacity and how they would navigate those situations. That was a really heartbreaking one for her. They all are, but that one especially, because you work with a population, cut deep. So we're talking about that. And then she brought up the fact that her heritage is part Jewish. And being Jewish, being in rooms and environments where people may have anti-Semitic comments or anti-Jewish comments, it is easy and is convenient for her to pass off as Italian or as Irish as the other side, or to just basically step out of the context and just pretend that they're not talking about you if you don't want to be confrontational in those moments. So it was a very fascinating conversation, because on one level, being Jewish, you can sympathize with the pain, the trauma, the racism, the systemic racism, the brutality of the past. But on the other side, you have the convenience of not appearing as part of that oppressed group when you feel like it, because people don't necessarily know that may be your heritage by the way you look. This skin tone doesn't allow me that privilege. So we can have this conversation, and on one level you can empathize, but on another level you can't, because you have the privilege of stepping out of that context whenever you feel like it. From an appearance perspective, that's not necessarily true, but that is the perception that people put on you, and that you have a choice to whether you want to identify, stand strong against it, or step out because it really doesn't affect you, even though it does. So that conversation was really fascinating, because once again, it just speaks to the fact that our skin tone really puts us in situations where we don't have a choice. We are left to deal with that which is in front of us. So that was Megan's comments yesterday. So I really appreciated that. I appreciate her sensitivity to that in terms of where we are at in this world, in this context. And I've said it a few times before that as much as I like to feel like I am strong and invincible, I feel this. I feel the negative energy that's on and the tension that is in for us as people want to speak against and give space to what's happening in these trials, and then another murder happening, police brutality. So you start to wear that, and as Tasha Edwards says, there's days where you feel like you want to call in black. Just say like, you know what, peace out, I'm not doing this today. So I felt like that this week. I felt like I've used all of my energy to put my best energy into my conversations with people here, my best energy into my people, just scraping to get into conversations and to engage and to get into meetings and do my best in those moments. And they're challenging. They're really, really challenging. At the same time, this is the thing that kept me going yesterday and through this week. Those of you who saw me after I watched the movie Whiplash, and I was like, you need to watch Whiplash, you need to watch Whiplash. It's such a great story about this guy who has this really challenging mentor, and then he wants to be great so bad. He withstands such abuse just to get to this place of being great. And the movie is very disturbing in that perspective, but it just so happened the other day, I was in here and I was playing some Charlie Parker's music. Charlie Parker is a jazz musician who, according to the movie, is famous and arguably one of the best jazz musicians of all time, simply because of a moment when a colleague of his in a gig he was playing threw a cymbal at him. Threw the cymbal at him, he got laughed off the stage because he was this young buck showing off while he was playing, disappeared for a year as he went into the lab, started playing and practicing, and came back a year later, played with different bands, and then continued to excel and be the best that he could be on the saxophone. So playing his music, you hear that greatness. And he died an early death, which is tragic. But this movie and this character, Charlie Parker, speaks to a person's pursuit of greatness in spite of That's what's kept me going this week. I heard that music and I wanted to stay in my funk. I wanted to stay in a place of just closing things out. Let me just work on some projects in the background. I don't feel like talking to people today, but I want to be great. But I want to be the best teacher I can be. But I want to be the best communicator I want to be. I want to be the person that can make a difference in people's lives, whether it's live or online, who are in my sphere of influence. I want to be one who makes an effect in my community locally and effect on the community globally. So when it comes to all these different things, all it took was me hearing one song from Charlie Parker and remembering the fact that there will be times when in your pursuit of greatness, there are going to be things that come to oppose you. And as much as I want to feel like that is something that happened over there, across the fence, over the fence in another country, is something that is still affecting me because I have this passion for my humanity and for my skin tone, those things hit me like it's hitting me personally. And I have to move on in spite of that. I have to encourage people in spite of that. I have to be me, give space, get my recovery when I can, but at the same time, take those moments to rest so I can come back in strength. Your work is only as good as your rest. So I'm telling myself all of these messages so that I can continue to be great in spite of. In spite of. In spite of. Bullies and baggage. I made that the title simply because of something that Michelle Smith said the other day. In her business, in her life, she's been bullied online by people saying that she doesn't look the way, she doesn't look the part, she doesn't play the part, she needs to put in more work, all these different things. Those bullies get in your head, they create baggage in your body that it hinders you from being what you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do, and achieving what you're supposed to achieve. How do we lock out those bullies? How do we lock out that baggage? How do we not give space to those things so that we can be who we're supposed to be? I'm going to answer that question in a little bit. I want to hear your stories of times when you've been bullied, how you've handled it. I want to hear what's happened, even in our Pilates industry. Let's be real. I'm not talking about when you were 5. I'm talking about 5 weeks ago when you put something up and people just, like someone said today, I was reading earlier today, someone put up a post, just real talk, them just in their bikini, whatever, and someone sent them an opportunity to be an affiliate with a spandex company that hides cellulite. Hey, you don't look good enough. Let me give you something that's going to make you look better. That, my friends, can be bullying. Whew. All right, so before I get through that, my man Neil Prasad is going to join me here. And I love the fact that my guy has been watching and listening and engaging in this conversation. As much as I give lots of room to the Pilates community, it is open to all. And my guy has been here on regular. So he's got his coffee and he's want to hear about. So let's get this going. I want to read some of your comments afterwards.
What's up, brother? What's up? Cheers, man.
Cheers.
How you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right.
You're on your soapbox today, bro. Getting it off your chest. That's good.
Yeah. I feel like I've been on my soapbox for a little bit here, so it's all good.
Listen, I've been watching from the sidelines, so kudos to you and all that you're doing. I was just actually having a conversation with a colleague of mine the other day about how you've carved out a niche for yourself and that you're actually crossing borders and international waters and bringing all these guests that can actually add value to your community. So, for those of you who don't know, Martin and I go way back, like 20-something years back, and football, Metaville Falcons, # back, you know what I mean? And I think, really a lot of that resilience kind of probably stemmed from there, if you really look back at it, right?
I agree.
And I think the mindset, just to look at these bullies and baggage topic that you're sort of bringing to the forefront, it really comes down to how you let people treat you, right? And
yes,
what your core fundamental principles are to shut the door on the noise, right? Like happened to me the other day, socially speaking, where somebody ridiculed me for a post because of this third lockdown that we're in Ontario. And, I was ready to just go and do all this research and get all this supportive information to provide and educate him. But his rant on my post went off for a few paragraphs. And I said to myself, you know what? This gentleman's already made up his mind. I'm not going to convince him. It's not my job to convince this guy. You know what I mean? Let him see the light of day for when he can see the light of day, right? And I think it was Mark Twain that said, like, you know, never get in an argument with stupid people, right? You go down to their level, and they're going to end up beating you with their experience, right? So it's right. That's exactly the response that I had. Like water on a duck's back, right? Just let it flow. So no, man, I appreciate you. You know, you inspire me in the mornings. You know, I see what you're doing. You know, I'm even thinking about maybe I should get this, you know, 5'8", 270 frame into a Pilates thing one day, but I'm trying to work it out, man. You know what I mean?
Yes. Man, but and what you're saying about football is so true. I do come back to that. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm this big football player, I could just kind of just walk it off sort of mindset. But there is a sense of resilience that we learned on the football field when you don't have a choice. Like, you have to finish the play.
Yeah.
How do I, like, in my mindset, that's it. Like, you got to finish the play. Like, take a break after, like, catch your breath after. But, like, for the next 20 seconds, you got to give it 100% just one more time.
Yeah. But I think it actually stems a lot before the actual game happens, right? It's the hours of practice, the hours of preparation, the stuff that you're putting in the work in the gym before no one's seeing any of that work, right?
Right.
That's where sort of the mental, physical attributions go in order for you to excel when the lights are on and everyone's watching. So like even just prepping for this on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
It's mentally draining. You know, you have to show up, I guess, depending on who you are as a person and what type of value you want to bring to the table, right?
Right, exactly. And you know, I did that preparation piece is key, right? Like one of my mentors used to say the line, people don't rise to the occasion, they fall to the level of their preparation.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. Yeah. Right? We fall to the level of our preparation. Right? So whether it's, you know, a physical preparation or just a mental preparation, like bullies and baggage. Like, we go out here in these social media streets, we know that there's going to be some assaults that come. How, you know, and there's going to be times that something strikes a nerve, and there's times when you just brush it off because it's not that important to us.
Yeah, there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, man. A lot of people are hiding behind the persona of social media accounts, and it's very easy for them to, you know, flick a couple keystrokes, Google some inspirational or some, you know, details that might be in line with the actual thread of the topic, right? And then they come away and they're all of a sudden sort of, they have some insight or some higher level of education to bring to the table. Meanwhile, they're just making adjustments to some other individual's thought process that doesn't actually sort of resonate who they are as a person. So it is what it is, man. It's the life, it's the environment that we're sort of creating holistically, I want to say. But no, man, like what's going on? How was the networking event?
It went well.
I missed it. Sorry, man. I was trying, but I got 2 kids under 4, so it's just like, it's insane right now, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. It went really well. I had a nice core group of about 30 people. I think 40 people finished in terms of registration for the weekend, and people, you know, built some good connections. I love hearing the stories from the last one I did in January, where I met this person, I started working this project together, we have this thing that's going on now.
Right.
Mission accomplished. Like this is we're really starved for social interaction. My favorite parts of any workshop or any conference was meeting people before or after class. Like, it's like high school for me, man. I didn't like high school. I didn't like the classes in high school. I like being like, you know, before, after school football practice, same thing. So I was trying to create that environment for people to meet and to connect. So
that's awesome.
It went really well. I'm going to run those like once a quarter. And
that's cool.
And maybe have a different point of focus for each one. Like, we raised some money for an orphanage at John Claude Nelson. It's an orphanage in Haiti, and I can't pronounce it. It's in French, the name of the school.
Sure. Google Translate.
Yeah, you know, it's like School of the Medallion of something. So I butcher it. So like, let's just leave it.
Sure.
Unsaid. But yeah, so the people who gave money to a platform that I use called buymeacoffee.com,
all the money that came in for that event and for the rest of the month of April, I'm giving towards that. So it went really well. I actually have some legit stats on this. So at 16 people that gave, there was over $230 that was raised. These are $5 increments, right? So
Right.
16 different people that gave to that. And then, yeah, so that ended up being almost $200, 200 pounds that was given to that orphanage. So
Wow,
that's,
that's incredible, man. Good for you.
thank you. Considering like
Yeah.
$10 covers a kid for a year, like
What?
yes, honestly.
Oh, brother, there could have been a social ripple effect that we should have looked at a little bit with that particular initiative, right? In
Mhm.
branding various cards and identifying or tagging people with that particular initiative for them to give based on Real Men Do Pilates and so on and so forth. Sort of a
Yes,
co-branded initiative to create a larger wave, because if it
true.
was all it was $5, like I skimmed that, to be honest with you, and I
Hmm.
really didn't, like I was just getting in, I was looking for the actual the registration for your networking event, and I said, "Oh, $5 coffee." I thought it was to support yourself, but again, I was really
You
quick.
just
I
read
was
it
just
fast,
skimming it
yeah.
through, and I was just like, "Oh." But now knowing that initiative, I would have definitely, so I still can, right? So I can still
Mhm. You
give,
still
right?
can, yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah.
can still do that, yeah. So that's awesome. I'm going to do that.
Cool.
Um, that's yeah. So
Yeah.
again, just to come full circle, I know maybe you've been seeing some posts, maybe you haven't. I've been doing digital marketing and advertising and sales for almost 25 years now.
Yeah.
Been scaling a few agencies during my tenure. I'm at an agency right now called Forge Media and Design.
Okay.
So we're an interdisciplinary design firm in Toronto. We do
Nice.
things like environmental graphic design and placemaking and sort of the reimagining the fourth element, where we like to create what's called the felt experience. So
Okay.
think of anything digital, virtual, or physical, right? And
Okay.
combining those realms. So
Yes.
we've got traditional branding, we've got digital with websites, UX, UI design, mobile apps, things of that nature. And then we
Hmm.
get into the interactive media thing. So really cool stuff like digital touch screens,
Yes.
kiosks, projection mapping, virtual reality really gets out there, right? So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
pretty cool. As a passion project of mine, I've been wanting to start a podcast YouTube channel for a couple of years now, and sort of
Yes.
just helping people with their digital journey, because there's been so many horror stories that I've had in some of the agencies that I was with, where individuals were getting burned. They were losing $10,000 a month on a digital ad spend, or they
Yes.
paid an agency 50K and they weren't able to execute on some of the deliverables that were
Yes.
set out. So
Hmm.
I said, you know what, let me see if I can bring some value here. So I partnered up with a colleague of mine, Jason Rule, and
Hmm.
we started this podcast called Hustle Mode Podcast.
Okay.
And
I put it in the
basically,
comment section here.
yeah, for sure. Hustle Mode underscore podcast, I think it is. But we're on YouTube. We have a channel. We do podcasts about once a week, and then we cut it and then tear it up. It's on Spotify as well. So, but the goal here is not really to monetize or really to sell anything. This is a passion project. It's a hobby of ours
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
we just want to bring value. My colleague is doing everything in the IoT space.
Okay.
So when you're looking at mobile connectivity, internet, anything as far as, especially in today's day and age, if you're looking at utilizing digital payments or POS system, or using integration with mobile for iPads or mobile devices and things of that
Yes.
nature, he kind of connects all those dots, right? So we
Amazing.
said, you know what, let's come together, and really cool guy, and we just be like the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
That's
part of the
cool.
reason. That's part of the reason why I was observing from the far, right? Because
Yes.
those first 10, 15 seconds of you getting up and cued and sort of attention to talking to the community and owning that message, and then some of the tactics that you're using here today. I'm a fan, man. And I always want to give
Thank you.
support to guys that we're growing up with, and see them succeed. That's one thing that I can say, Martin, is that for the most part, 99.9% of the people that we know collectively are
Yes.
succeeding in whatever vocation or realm that they're operating in, and that's just blessed, man. I love to see that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And and for those who are watching too, I'm sure you have a ton of questions for Neil from a marketing perspective, because I started to see now that I'm not knocking my colleagues that do this, but there's so many people that are in the Pilates world that now say, okay, this is how you do marketing. They're in the Pilates world, this is how you do coaching. You're in the Pilates world, but this is how you do X, Y, and Z. I'd like to step outside of the context and find out like what someone like you says about marketing, or I'll talk to like a guy who's in taxes to understand how he builds his tax business so that I could take some of those principles back to the Pilates world, right? So
Hmm.
getting someone who's not in the context to be able to look with a different lens at what we do, I find is really, really helpful. So I'd love to just, continue, maybe just dedicate an hour to just talk about marketing and what you do so people can hear and translate it to how they can grow their Pilates business if they're stuck online, or if they're doing like they have a studio that's closed, and how we can pivot and draw some attention to their products and services, and just have a talk with someone who's not in the Pilates world to learn about how they can grow their Pilates business
I'd
from a
love it.
market
I'd love
perspective.
it. Let's do it, man. Let me
Yeah.
know
Okay.
when.
Cool.
Let me know when we'll set it up.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, yeah. So so with your podcast, you're saying like it's a passion project. You're trying to add value and stuff like that. What kind
So
of things do you
basically,
guys feature on
we're
there?
yeah, it's a great cue. So we're talking everything entrepreneurship, business success. We deal with business development, sales, taking a closer look at obviously digital marketing being one, and then obviously tying in the Internet of Things, right? So internet devices, mobile devices,
Yeah.
effectiveness and scale. Collectively, Jason and I, we bring about 50 plus years experience, and I've scaled an agency from 3 people to 18,
Wow.
yielding
Yeah.
$3.6 million annual recurring revenue, right? And this is a small family-run shop, right? Like I've done another
Right.
agency where it was like 6 people, moved them to 18, and I did about just under $1 million contracted
Yeah.
revenue in less than 9 months, right? So those rapid scale and growth process, you learn all of these sort of nuggets that you're able to deploy, whether it's through
Yes.
CRM, database management,
Hmm.
marketing automation, integration, social media management, website 101, email marketing, really the list goes on, right? Even
Yeah.
just networking on LinkedIn and doing virtual events and has proper etiquette and how
Right.
you can sort of give back and just it's a very large vague I wouldn't say vague, but it's a very large
It's
catchment
large.
of
Yes.
topics because it
Yeah.
all relates, and these are transferable skills, like you said, regardless of industry.
Right. I think that's why people get lost in it, because, many of us are just warm, fuzzy movement teachers, and I just want to help people. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't have the time to sit here and just dive into Google and find out how to improve my SEO and like, what I mean? Like you get lost in the weeds, and then as a result, I throw, you know, money at Facebook ads and hope that it's going to change my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think, yeah, I think it'd be helpful to have those conversations, to have the real talk, money talk conversations, because, you know, that's what happens, right? Like we want to
Yeah.
help people, but then we're not really thinking about like, how do we monetize this? Or how do we, like you just said, like, I mean, I raised some funds for this orphanage, but like, I didn't maximize the potential of
Yeah.
what that could have been like. I just did it because that's just the right thing to do. So
Yeah.
how do we marry, quote unquote, the right thing to do with making money at the same time and bringing
Yeah.
attention and maximizing our reach?
Yeah. I mean, your intent is, and your execution is 100% in the right place, right? Like you're not using this as leverage to grow the number of people who connect with you. You're doing this because you want to support a child for a year and give back to that orphanage in order for it to see grow. So
Yes.
you're coming 100% from the right place, right?
Hmm.
And it's not at anyone's fault. It's because you're a solopreneur, right? You don't have a team of people who you're working with. So how many hats do you have on? And sorry, how many capes do you have on? Because I caught
Yes.
that. And
Yeah.
when are you going to find time? Because at the end of the day, you've got bills to pay, right? You've got a family that needs tending to. You've got a business that you need to run. You got a podcast that you need to update. You got edits that need to cut. You got clients that you need to train. Like the list goes on and on and on and on and on, right? So
Right. Right.
I think a lot of times what ends up happening as an entrepreneur is that you have all of these capes, aka hats, aka tasks, and you don't necessarily allocate all of that time that's required in order to do things that may actually elevate you to a completely different level. Does that make
Yes.
sense, Mark?
Perfectly, because I know I personally get stuck there. I know many of us get stuck in this cycle of doing the same stuff, and then we might throw something new in and see if it works or it doesn't. Let's just go back to the thing that's going to make us money right now, because I don't have
Right.
6 months to figure out how to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think no one does. But I think what the one thing this whole pandemic has taught us, hopefully, is that you're able to test and adjust and pivot as we move forward, right? Like
Yes.
every day, every week is something new that's being thrown at us
Mhm.
as society, right? So we're all learning to be like water and shift and make sure that we can, you know, execute, right?
Yes.
And I think
Right.
that's where you see, if you look back at any successful organization, many that started in a garage, you know, they've all
Mhm.
shifted and adjusted and tried and tested and failed and went back to the
Yes.
drawing board and executed again, right? So I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
as long as you have the ability to know that this might work or this might not work, or what did you learn from that process? I think that's the key part, right?
True. True. Okay, so here's your opportunity for a little pep talk.
Go ahead.
For every person who thinks I'm not ready to do any marketing because someone is going to, like a bully, challenge me on how good my product is, or challenge me on how good a teacher I am. So I don't want to put myself out there as much. What do you say to that person?
Well, I would ask them why.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I mean, yeah, why? Like, why, what's holding you back? It has nothing to do with, I don't think it has anything to do with the outside factors, right? That's a deep, like, fundamental human being trait, right? Like, I think
yes,
they say that people would rather be in a casket. The number one fear is public speaking, right? So people would much
yes.
rather be in a casket than actually being in front of a crowd and delivering some type of speak on a topic at large. And I think honestly, if these so-called people that you're referring to are entrepreneurs or individuals that have their own businesses or a side hustle, etc., and they're timid about sort of speaking from their passion, then they should not be doing what they're doing.
Mm,
Sorry to say, like, just cut to
yeah,
the chase. I'll just save you hours of grief or years of heartache and pain, because
right.
if you can't get up on this virtual soapbox, so to speak, trumpet your own horn and advocate for the service or product that you're bringing to market,
Mhm.
you have to be the number one salesperson as your CEO before you can actually see any type of success. And if you can't handle the haters, how are you going to handle the success?
Mm. If you can't handle the haters, how are you going to handle the success?
I don't
Yes.
know. What do you think? Like,
Well,
I
that really does echo what Michelle was saying on Monday, right? Like, I mean, she started to do this, and she has a great business, and even in her all of her posts, she highlights all of her people that are doing well, and she shows their progress. So she's putting forward the people who are seeing results from her product. But then once she started to put up pictures of herself,
yep.
then she got you need to practice what you preach. You need to put some more work in yourself. And we get, yes, as Joel puts it, we need to fight the ANT, so like the automatic negative thoughts, right? Like, there's so many things that happen that send those messages that we're not good enough, we're not ready enough. You know what I mean?
Self-doubt.
All those self-doubt messages.
It's your number one factor that's always going to be. I just had this conversation like literally an hour and a half ago when I was on my machine here getting my cardio in.
Yes,
Self-doubt. You're going to be the worst critic, and that's
right,
okay. As long as
right.
you can tell that critic to just, hey, be quiet for a moment. I got to do this, right?
Yes.
And you've got that checklist or to-do list or goals or whatever you want to call it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think, yeah, I mean, what's the worst? I say this all, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yes.
You're going to succeed? Like,
Right. Yeah.
that's the worst thing that's going to happen. So what?
Yep.
You fail. So what?
Right.
Who's really watching you to say, right? And if people are
Right.
watching you to ridicule your failures,
Hmm.
then what did you learn from that? Because they're not living in your life. They're not going through what you're going through, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And that inner critic is the one that, when we get an external critic, it's like if that inner critic is speaking loud enough and that external critic comes along with a whisper, we hear that loud and clear.
100%.
Right? So we need to just really manage that internal voice so that the external voice isn't just sending a confirmation of what we think about ourselves.
Yeah. But I mean, there's some value too, right? Like, if somebody has something to say, it's kind of like anything in life, right? If somebody's, and it depends with a grain of salt, depending on what we're talking about. But like,
Yes.
look at reviews. If somebody's satisfied with a product or service, maybe they'll take the nth the next step to actually do an online review or provide
Yes.
it to a virtual testimonial of some sort.
Hmm.
But flip it the other way around. Let a product or service fail. It's
Yes.
like wildfires. They're going to every single social
Yes.
media channel and blazing that company or corporation or individual because they're so dissatisfied with that service,
Right.
right? So I used to tell clients all the time, you can't have salt without pepper, man. Like you got to have the yin and the yang to be fully transparent, right?
Yes.
Transparency is key because then people are going to see right through what you're trying to bring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want to take up that much more of your time, but I just want to share
Yeah,
one
brother,
more
no.
story. This
Listen, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Just this one last story, just from the lady Megan that I had on yesterday. It was fascinating how like she was saying that she back in the day, maybe a year ago, took my class. Right, she took my online class. She just basically went in as a face in the crowd, did a class, and then she said it was really good, and that was it. So when I invited her to be on my show yesterday, she's like, "Oh yeah, I did your class like a year ago," and so when we were talking yesterday about it, I asked her, and it took some courage to actually ask her what she thought about the class. So I knew that she had liked the class because she had said that already. She even said it again yesterday on the show. But when
Right.
I asked her exactly, like, well, what did you like about the show, about the class? And she's
Class.
saying,
Yeah.
well, it was a classical class, but it was still like you gave some good suggestions. The people in the room were really strong and they were really positive as well. And she just went on with some really, really positive feedback. And she's known as someone who doesn't give a lot of just flippant good feedback.
Yeah.
It was interesting how uncomfortable it was to get positive feedback, even though I know the feedback coming back was going to be positive.
Right.
It was like I was listening, I was watching it, and I was watching myself, and I was like, "Ugh," and I knew it was
You're,
going to be good, but I was still like bracing for impact
why?
because we're not used to asking for feedback.
Was it the ask part, or was the fact that she was giving great feedback in a public forum?
I think it was probably because she was giving positive feedback in a public forum. Like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to react when she starts to tell me how awesome I am? Am
Right.
I going to am I going to downplay that? And be like, that was just a lucky day. Am I going to just be graceful and say thank you? Like, I started to think about, okay, what do you do with all of this stuff? Am I going to be cocky with it? No, let me just cool off a little. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you go through all these different things, but like, I really wanted feedback so I could be better. But at the same time, I was uncomfortable with getting positive feedback. What are you?
Feedback.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you ask her what you could have improved on in order to make that experience better? I didn't catch the show. Sorry. So
No,
it
no,
was
no,
just
no, no apology. That's exactly it. I didn't.
okay.
And the way that like, in total honesty, because I heard her say like two or three times it was really good,
Hmm.
I didn't I didn't even actually fish for what I could have done to improve it. Like
Right.
she was pretty thorough in
In the
explaining what
response. Okay.
was done. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you jumping on sort of,
Yeah, man.
just out of the blue. It's always nice seeing you, man. I'm always watching from
Yes. Like,
afar. So
thank you,
I
man.
look forward to hearing from you in the future about maybe setting it up and bringing some value to the audience here as far as
Yes.
marketing, biz dev,
Yeah.
sales, and things like that. Right. Go follow me, Prasad Neil on Instagram, or link me up
Yes,
on LinkedIn,
please.
Neil Prasad 76. That'd be awesome. I'm always available for virtual coffee.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother. Have a
Thanks.
good day,
All
man.
right. Take care.
Cheers.
Yes. Take it in, own it. Thank you. I am great at what I do. Public vulnerability, yes. Was I looking for something negative? Um, Not really. I was looking for like I think that I'm always looking for growth things. So even when someone says something positive, I'm like, okay, all right. You just kind of figured it out right now. So just don't stop. You're asking if I was looking for something negative. No, I wasn't looking for something negative. But when I hear something positive, I still think, okay, that was good. How do I get better? That was good. How do I create more space between me and the next person? How do I create more space? How do I get better? How do I become a talent plus person, if I want to use the words of uh, John Maxwell, right? So anyway, so that is just my own internal messaging, and those are the things that I like to wade through, and even being vulnerable to say it here. I appreciate further compliments. Not that I'm fishing for them, but that's the thing, right? So how do we reinforce that internal messaging, reminding ourselves that we are good enough, great enough, talented enough, skilled enough, fit enough, strong enough, whatever the enough is, and not let these bullies impact and give us that baggage. There he is, Hustleable Podcast. Thank you. I'm gonna get Neil on afterwards. I think that compliments are good. Yeah, it's true. Why can't we just say thank you? Why do we have to talk about this for 20 minutes about like getting a compliment? I'm talking to myself right now. Those are the things that we put ourselves in this position where we think things through too much. Like I'm like the president, CEO, and founder of Overthinkers Anonymous, right? Like, so I get it. I get it. Benjamin, how are you? Marla, good to see you. Krista and Jordan, good peeps. Yes. Uh, Thank you. Yes. Membership is free, and yes. Would anyone like to join me on screen? We got about 20 minutes or so. Going more, Joe. Jess, don't stop. Krista, I'd love to have 3 people on screen. Let's just tie up this bullying baggage piece with some words. Sonia, you still in the room? We should have a club. So good. No, gross, just welcome. I beg to differ on the gross part, but you know. Sunny, do you want to join me on screen? Of course, Joel. Joel is one. Jess, you want to just throw on a head tie or something and join me? You West Coast people, too funny. Someone want to join Joel and I? Show of hands. Benjamin. I love how you can totally get away with doing whatever you like while watching these. And yes, no one needs to know that you're still in your jammies, you're brushing your teeth, you haven't turned your brain on yet. You can just be, yes. Ah, it's so funny. Sunny, Jess, anyone? I'm gonna bring Joel on. In the meantime, you guys can just do your thing and then join me. Joel, are you brushing your teeth in the dark? Is that why the screen's off
No,
right now, or?
I'm not sure. Hold on a second. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you hear my voice? Oh, here. Oh, hold on. I got to rotate the camera. I see.
Ah,
These little. Oh,
hey,
okay. Here we go. No, I'm doing a mid-month payroll while I'm listening to you.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. It's the morning show for the West Coasters, Jess is saying.
Yes, they're still getting their coffee in their bloodstream. I've already had mine in for a few hours. So.
Yes, it's funny.
Well, I enjoyed your conversation. I liked your friend that was on there. He's a great guy, man.
Yeah, man.
That's
Yeah.
cool. You've known him for that long. It's good to have
Yeah,
friends like that.
yeah. I definitely have some great people like in my circle like that. And isn't it fascinating too how people have like Neil with his marketing background, he saw what I was doing. He's like, oh, you could have done this, this, and this, and like it seems like
Yeah.
it's just effortless to just layer in those pieces. Whereas you or I, or me anyway, like you think of it and you're like, okay, that would have taken so much work to figure that out before the rollout day. Like, so I just kind of like, let's just leave it.
Well, I
Like,
think it's so important to talk to people in other industries and get ideas from. I mean, successful people in other industries, you can learn a lot that you can take and apply to, your own business.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, it's great to talk to other Pilates instructors to know what's happening in your industry, but it's so important to talk to people that or in real estate or manufacturing or something like that and see how they do it, especially if they've been doing it for a while, because
right.
I think some of the keys to success are the same, cross industry for sure.
Cross industry, yeah, for sure. And it's one thing to say that because we as trainers or Pilates instructors, we cross paths with people every single day, right? Like we have uber successful
Yeah.
clients,
Yes, that's exactly right.
but we don't capitalize on that in terms of like having an off their hour conversation. Like how often do
Hmm.
we just set up a Zoom call and just ask them questions? How often do we just take them out for lunch just to pick their brain? Like
Hmm.
buy them lunch and just ask them every question. Like, how much money did you make at this point when you were 5 years into your career? Like I am 5 years into mine. What did
Hmm.
you different? Like, where were your kids at that point? I start asking some really, really hard questions. Oh, you're 46. Where were you at 46? What did you do? What would you do differently if you were 46 now compared to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I asked that of one of my clients when I was turning 30, I think it was. And he's in his 40s or 50s, and he had a successful like building maintenance company. And he was like, I would have taken more risks. I would have borrowed more money and just done some more risky things, knowing that I have this much runway to still make it up, or that I realize now that small risk, that sort of thing, right? So I didn't like go out and like mortgage my house or anything, but like it made me really rethink how conservative I was with the amount of runway I still had in front of me in my business, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
I think that's true. And I think because when you ask people those questions, because I've had some clients that are very successful at what they do, and when they're in this studio, as I've gotten to know them well, I'll ask them questions like similar to that. And usually they're pretty open because you're not in their industry. So it's not
yes,
like you're trying to pick their brain to compete with them at all.
yes,
So they're usually really open and willing to share
hmm
um, stuff like that.
yeah,
So.
yeah, it's true. Most people want to help when it comes to that point,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, especially if they've been a client of yours for a while, they care about you. They love your business. That's why they keep coming. So
Yeah,
they're more than willing to share and
right.
express themselves to you.
They probably don't want to
I
see
mean,
you go under
if
too,
you're
right?
seeing them roll upside down and seeing their butt in the air, they're comfortable with you.
Right.
They'll share anything.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's probably in their best interest to like keep your business alive too, right? So like for their own sake.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yes. Jess is saying now I have a very successful friend who keeps pushing me to take more risks.
yeah.
right? Like, and so Jess, what kind of risk? Like what does that mean? Is it to, you know what I mean? Because I mean, like, that's such an abstract term, like taking more risks, like, and we all have different levels of risk averseness too, right? So I'd be curious to find out there. But
Yeah, I'd be curious to find out too. What are those risks, Jess?
yeah.
So,
Now, as a guy, just
mhm.
out of curiosity, when we're talking about the bullying and baggage thing, have you ever
Yeah.
felt like that someone was trying to quote unquote bully you, and you're just like, nah, it's not gonna work? Like,
I'm really trying to think. I know when you were talking about that, I was trying to think if someone tried to bully me. I mean, I had one instructor here that wasn't trying to bully me, but she was trying to sabotage me
yeah.
for a little bit.
Hmm.
I wouldn't call it bullying, but yeah, she's uh, kind of in a conniving way sowing seeds with other instructors of discontent. So
Yes.
at the point before I figured out what was going on, some of my other good instructors were like, you know what, I can't work here anymore. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And it ended up as this one person was planning on leaving my studio, starting her own business, you know, behind the scenes, steal a bunch of clients,
Yes.
and hopefully get my existing clients to leave also, which would leave me with nothing. So I had somebody do something like that to me one time. That really stunk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'd call it bullying. Maybe in a sense it is kind of bullying, kind of through the back door. You know, not to
Yes.
my face, but like
Right.
passive aggressive bullying. So I had that happen, but got rid of him right away as soon as I figured out what was happening, and then just had to do some damage control with some of my staff.
Right.
But
Right.
it all actually worked out way better, and my business has actually turned out to be like 200% stronger after that person was gone.
Of course.
But straight up bullying, like on social media, I haven't. There was one woman, I won't say her name, who's been in Pilates for a long time, and I think she kind of started losing her mind a little bit. And she would make weird posts or make weird comments. And I just unfriended her, which a lot of other people did too, because she's just starting to lose her mind. She was kind of a bully, but I just dismissed her and moved on.
Yes.
So.
Right.
And I see how that totally can happen. And if someone is maybe really sensitive to that kind of thing, that could totally mess you up and just take the wind out of your sails completely, and
Right.
just trying to get going, and then somebody who's been in the industry for a long time and says like crazy negative things. So yeah, I could totally see how that could happen.
Yes, exactly. You're right too.
Oh, there's Jessica's thing.
Yeah. So the first comment was, he thinks I should take a huge loan and start open a big gym. Yeah. And then I think of risk management, smaller risk if I feel I can recover. Yeah, that's wise. That's wise. I feel like he's bullying me by telling me how small my business is.
Well, I know if in that regard, yeah, you do. It is good to grow and push. I think push those boundaries a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, just opening up a business is a risk. But speaking from experience, biting off more than you can chew at the beginning can put a lot of stress in your life, and then you're just fighting uphill till you get to the top, and that can be a lot of stress. And it just depends on if your support system of family is willing to take that risk with you.
Yes.
If not, it could be a big problem. But,
right. Yeah.
Just take a risk and maybe just go a little bigger than what you are. Test out the waters, and then take it from there.
Take it in phases.
Yeah, I did that with the place I'm in now. I've got a pretty big space now, and when I first jumped in, it was going good, and then the recession hit.
Yes.
That sucked for a while, and, but then it finally paid off. So it's.
Yeah, people don't like to hear that sucked middle part. They just like to hear I took a big risk and now we're great.
Right, exactly. Now there's a few years of suckiness in there, for lack of a better word, but you just, passion can get you through it, but when you have, dependence and family that's relying upon you, that can add a little extra pressure to it.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's so she knows who you're talking about. So we'll keep her nameless, and keep insurance risk. Well, even so, the last thing I was going to say on that too. I was talking with a marketing guy this morning, funny enough, and he was asking me, do I want to grow my business fast or like over the long term? Do you want to see like good long-term growth or short-term growth? And my answer has been the same as always. Like, I want to grow it well, not fast. Right? So I don't want something that happens so suddenly and then I can't deliver, or so suddenly and then it's like the product isn't quality enough, right? Like I'd rather have it going for a long term so I can continue to make pivots and make it, grow and just hear what people are saying and grow it well, as opposed to just grow it fast and then it fizzle out, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And, invest in stuff that, like investing in equipment is always good because you're going to use it forever. Like in the Pilates world, buy good equipment. You can always, you can always turn around and sell that equipment if the bottom falls out of it, because, good equipment like what you have and stuff like that, there's always a market for it. But otherwise, that equipment is what's going to, help make you money if when you start getting bodies back in it.
Yes.
If you have like a retail space and stuff, but you can't go wrong with equipment.
Yes. Deep, not wide. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so true. So true.
Nice. Yeah. Man, I always love just catching up with you. So it's good to just have chats over whatever. So never get sick of each other.
Real quick side note.
Yes.
So we're good for tomorrow at 11, right?
Yes.
All right, man.
That's gonna be so fun. I'm slightly scared in a good way.
Yeah. We're both gonna get our butts kicked.
Yes. That's good. So Meryl Pilates, yeah, that's gonna be good. So
I think somebody needs to record it.
I
should record it.
I think that some things just need to just be.
Oh, okay. Well, there might be a highlight. We can always delete it.
Right.
If there's a highlight, we'll have it.
Yes.
Or something funny, a blooper. Who knows?
Right. Exactly. So we're 24 hours out. So I'm gonna start stretching now. So that
okay. Yeah. Hey. Me too.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Start psyching myself up. All right, man.
Thanks,
okay,
sir.
Martin. Good talking with you.
Right,
Good to talk to everybody. Bye.
Nice. All right, guys. Thank you for this hour. This has been cathartic for me, at least. It's been so good, Marianne. Good seeing you. Thanks for jumping in. Thank you for all your comments, Jess. As always, it's good to just have your comments in there. Tomorrow we're gonna have a good time. We got Hannah joining us, and Overthinkers Anonymous, brushing my teeth, funny comments. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow again. We're here on Core Conversations.